So, guys, we went to go check out Justice League. Initially, I went to go see it with another good friend of mine because he had tickets. But there's very few people that I wanted to actually see the movie with. On this side, Bolo, he's one of my good friends, good cousins, and
Hello.
we have in-depth discussions about this stuff, and honestly, that's what I kind of wanted to bring to my channel, just discussions about movies and stuff that I'm passionate about. This is probably my second time. This is his third time. Um, was there anything different that you've seen from this one that you didn't see from before, or?
No, it just pretty much reiterated the things I didn't like about it. I mean, my position is I hated it. Uh, I mean, in terms of not necessarily that it was the worst movie I've ever seen, I think it was the worst type of movie that could have been made. It was okay, which is passable. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's not very memorable. You can watch it and completely forget about
You
it.
didn't think anything about it was memorable?
No.
Hmm.
I mean, outside of the Amazonian sequence at the very beginning, where they're trying to keep away with the mother box and Steppenwolf, that scene was great because that scene has more tension, stakes, and actually gets the hairs on your arms standing up because you see these Amazon warriors give their lives for this simple task at hand, and they're literally like, "Yo, our queen told us to do this. We understand what we have to do." And with a new gods level threat, that's really what it has to be. Like, you can't have any putzing around. And it felt like the movie didn't really carry those stakes all the way through. I mean, I'm very biased. I'm a huge Batman fan. I really liked Ben Affleck in Batman and Superman. I thought his portrayal, Bruce Wayne and the Bat, was great. I didn't have any issues with that. But within this movie, with the quips and specifically how they're trying to do the humor and inject the humor in the movie, it felt like Ben Affleck doing a impression of Robert Downey Jr., where he's sort of awkward and is like, well, can you talk to fish? How does that work? Where I feel like the humor should have been more of, Batman given a confident directive, but then being completely wrong in that directive. That's kind of how it worked. I don't think Batman is ever self doubting in the terms of, I'm not quite sure what he's doing.
I don't think it's about self. I mean, I think he has self doubt, but it's usually
Well, I
internal.
guess self deprecation is kind of what it
he's
is.
he's not self deprecating, and
No.
I mean, at certain points where he kind of just makes fun of himself. I mean, honestly, I think he can do that. Particularly like there's a part in the movie where Bruce is talking to Barry Allen, and I'm sure you guys seen it from the trailer. He's like, "Oh, what's your superpower?" He's like, "Because I'm rich."
Yeah, that's sort of a meta joke, also.
It's a meta joke, but I mean that's a joke that I think Bruce would play.
Well,
I think he would definitely be able to play.
you know what I found, like, because I was watching the animated series because I kind of had to wash the taste of Justice League out of my mouth. I'm not gonna lie. And I started rewatching the original Batman animated series that everybody always talks about. But I think one of the key things that kind of made that show work is that Batman can kind of get away with dad jokes, like jokes that are cheesy, corny, and that only he would really find funny.
Uncle jokes.
But think about it, like, because this is a guy who sort of traveled the world and studied every single martial arts, every single science, every single mental capacity to start his war on crime. You're going to be kind of in your own head, which I think he kind of is, and not necessarily the detrimental, nerdish, sort of awkward sort of way, but this is a guy that's purely focused on his mission. In that sort of state, your sense of humor, your goal is to really only make yourself laugh, not necessarily to be the popular crowd pleaser. You're there, you're like, you would say something like, "Yeah, I'm rich." That's funny to me because I know how rich I am. Like, I can buy and sell your ass, 3,000 times, and I don't know why I'm rich. I'm from old money. Like, I can't even. I've been trying to spend all of this money that I have, and I can't.
I mean, honestly, if you guys haven't seen it from my previous review or kind of my non-spoiler review, I was talking a lot of the stuff that I really enjoyed about the movie. I mean, this is my second time watching it. I would have bring out to you sooner, but I was feeling crap for the past couple of weeks. But um, I find like what he says isn't false, and I mean when it comes down to movies, you know, everyone can have come to their own conclusions about how they like or dislike the movie. Um, the only really things that I seen that were really kind of just head scratching were just for me the minor details of the situation because um, as we kind of go alluded to a little later on that like there's certain things. I mean, he has a particular problem with Batman and kind of like the decision making that he has.
Well, it's stupid.
Well, I mean,
I mean, especially Justice League Batman, the one thing he can't afford to do is be stupid.
Well, I mean, because I felt like in the beginning of the movie, you see that that Ma Kent lost the farm basically to not paying the bills, and I mean, I attribute that kind of to her disillusion with losing Superman and losing Pa Kent, but for me, in my mind, I'm sitting there like, why didn't Bruce swoop in and buy the house from the beginning? I felt like that for me and for people who have intimate knowledge of the fucking comic books. If you don't see behind me, I have millions of comics. Bruce wouldn't just let Superman's mom's house go on the market and he's dead. Like he wouldn't. There'd be no way. Like Ma Kent's farm is safe, which I kind of felt like, where was Bruce Wayne? Where was Bruce Wayne looking on his friend or this person he owed so much to?
Well, I mean that's part of the problem is that by the end of Batman Superman, they've really just introduced each other. So there is no okay. I go back to the Ma and Pa Kent farm and get a full understanding of who Clark Kent really was and the environment that he grew up in. Because the key to traditional Superman is Ma and Pa Kent, is that there's this good, wholesome American couple that adopts this, alien immigrant child and raises him in the best American way possible. And like the idealism of America is, fairness, truth, and justice. And those are terms that we try and internalize, and that's the best of what we can do. What they've done with Man of Steel is that they pretty much said, well, that sort of America doesn't exist. This is this is post-Vietnam, this is post-Nixon, this is post fucking 90s with the AIDS scare, post-Reaganism, incarceration, and especially with the eruption of, the latest equal rights for justice for blacks, gays, and women. There's a lot of sort of disillusionment of what America is and what we aspire to be, which I think is a pretty brave move on that term. So like, I don't think, I mean, like, in terms of what they showed in the movie, it made sense that Bruce Wayne wouldn't be there because it's like, well, I only met this woman for 2 minutes, for saving her life, which was more about a catharsis for my own issues than actually meeting her. I don't know Clark as a person. Matter of fact, I really don't even know his real name. He knows his name, but like
he knows the ideals.
But I mean, the way, just like how my name, but when you say it, there's a whole identity attached to it. Because we have history together. There's no history there, so it's not like he would be thinking, oh shit, my boy just died, I need to check in on his mom. It's literally just, oh, this guy I met for one night that I tried to kill, that I was like, well, maybe I'm kind of being a dick about it. I mean, not kill him. How's his mom doing? It's not a deep personal best friend. And I mean, like I said before, like it's a movie that I think is definitely Frankenstein together, and that term has been thrown around a lot, but it really truly was, where it's this tug of war between Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon on what story they're trying to tell, and you can see portions of each one, but they don't support each other. They conflict with each other.
I mean, and I think that's kind of a big divide between us two, because I mean, he felt that it was a big commercial aspect to this movie that kind of ruined it for him. But I don't know. For me personally, I found it to be almost like a different type of storytelling, because for me, DC and Marvel do good jobs on different fronts, and I've always felt that DC did well. Marvel itself did a lot more fantastical stories where I don't know, like Guardians of the Galaxy. And you have a fucking right now dance contest. Me and you, ultimate bad guy. We're doing a dance contest, and then, what are you doing? Like, why didn't you just shoot him then? I mean, it's like there's enjoyment to be had there, but it's on a different level. Whereas like on a DC level, I mean, I bring up the Suicide Squad movie where they're at the bar and El Diablo's telling this long story about his wife and his kids, and it's like, oh well, what happened to your kids? It's like they're fucking dead. I mean, there's two different styles of telling stories, and for me, this movie, I mean, a lot of people, him included, kind of don't like that it's kind of like setting up for other movies or.
Well, it's not just that it's a setup, but like as you're saying that Marvel will inject humor and fantasy, like a literal sort of fantasy on it, and both of these, comic book movies are fantasies to begin with, but um, with Marvel and DC, Marvel is able to sell exactly what type of popcorn and exactly what type of cotton candy that they're selling. With this particular movie, DC was selling, a Jolly Rancher, but what we got was cotton candy. And I like the Jolly Rancher, and I think it's for all of DC's movies faults to this point, they're movies that people still talk about, and still talk about in ways that people don't talk about Marvel movies. Like people say, "Oh yeah, that Marvel movie was great. I enjoyed it," and they can't tell you a single thing. And there's not a conversation. There's not, right now there are articles about the behind the scenes stuff that happened with Justice League. Like I think the DC characters are iconic in ways that Marvel cannot match, just based on how the characters are built. DC, their heroes are good. Like they do what they do because they feel it's right, and it's a hard thing to adapt, because you are sort of trapped in some ways where you have to tell a story about good people doing good things. Where Marvel, it doesn't matter because none of their characters really stand for anything. You can have Captain America be an asshole and it doesn't really change the fabric of Captain America. You can have Iron Man be Robert Downey Jr. and it doesn't matter because Tony Stark really doesn't have a personality. Tony Stark really doesn't stand for anything outside of alcoholism.
Which I mean, I don't think they ever really even touched on in the movies. Like
a little bit,
thing.
Yeah.
So many stuff that I hear, and I don't want to turn this into like a Marvel versus DC thing, because like I said, they both have their lanes to play. But I don't know. Personally, for me, I find it to be a huge double standard on how people judge these two franchises. Because I mean, honestly, personally, I didn't like Civil War. I thought that movie had a bunch of plot holes in it, and like it just wasn't believable. I mean, it did introduce people like Black Panther and his movies coming out, and God bless. Hopefully, it does well. I really want it to do well, but not just because he's black and I'm black. It's because I want it to be a serious movie. I'm worried personally that I don't think they're gonna do it right. But just back to what I was saying, like I don't want to make it into that kind of thing. But I feel that these characters, as he said before, are iconic. I mean, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman are some of the most, if not the most popular, most iconic, most recognizable cartoon figures in the world. I mean, you can go to Ukraine, people know what fucking Batman looks like. People know what Superman looks like. So I don't know. For me, it was about I wanted to see these beats, and honestly, I was certain characters. I was so worried about how they were going to kind of be melded into it that like it kind of. I was honestly going to watch this movie for the first time, seeing if they fucked up the actual characters, and honestly, I felt that besides like little things like the kind of ticks that um the Flash had, like I mean I don't know. I kind of didn't like it as much just because like there's a lot of times where the Flash almost felt like a, a kid on ADD. He was like all over the place, and I mean once you finally got to kind of just watch the kind of scenes where they kind of try to and granted it wasn't a lot of scenes where they tried to go into his backstory, which I mean honestly like I said I feel that that's how DC is gonna tell their stories. They want you to get invested in these characters, know if you like them, and then go, okay, well, here's the Flash movie, or like this movie. You seen Cyborg? I like Cyborg, so when his movie comes out, you'll be like, all right, let's see what they do with it. I already like this character, so moving forward, we'll go, all right, we'll give him a shot. Whereas a lot of people don't really, a lot of people as a reader are not really accepting of that, or they don't like that style of storytelling. And I mean, if you guys want to go back and look at some of the Justice League stuff, it kind of happens that way. Maybe not the way that it happened in the movie, but the teaming was not organic. The teaming was not like, all right, well, we need a team, we're gonna join together. There's like a crisis happened. It forces these people to realize their own mortality, their own problem.
Well, see, this is the thing, though, and this is kind of the issue with Justice League. In reality, like that's the new 52 version of Justice League formation. The original one, they just got together, like, and that's kind of the problem with DC is that these characters are so old that some of the original issues and some of the original stories of them getting together, I wouldn't say I lost the time, but you're gonna have to dig through it to figure out like how they actually come together, and then when you do, it's gonna come from a different era, a completely different era of comic books. You're talking about the golden age of comic books, where there wasn't a thought to necessarily not backstories, but the emotional weight of okay, why these guys come together. They came together because that comic sold, and they'd never done that before, and it was like, well, let's try this and see what will happen because we need to sell newspapers. But narratively that doesn't work. So I mean, to me, finding a reason for the Justice League to come together isn't necessarily the most important thing. I think having the team either be established or trying to find their organic way is tough, and they are villains within the DC universe that would force that hand, but those you kind of have to get a general audience acclimated to that, because that is a Starro, and that's a concept that's simple, but to do it right, like you're gonna have to set some things up, you're gonna have to show some rules, and plus you're gonna have to set not just Starro himself, but you're gonna have to set characters, other characters up that for when they do get taken over, you feel that loss, or you feel that immediacy of, oh shit, we need to find a way to save these people without hurting them. And that's what the Justice League is that they're so nice that it's like, all right, we could just body all these people, but let's find a way to save the day, but do the least amount of damage. That's like a perfect example, and again, I don't want to go Marvel versus DC. Let's find a way to save Shield from itself, so Shield doesn't have to go down. That's what the Justice League is capable of, and that's sort of the fundamental differences of, again, like Justice League are these good people, almost godly like people, where Avengers, X-Men are normal people with extraordinary abilities. All the people in Justice League, without their power, they would still want to do the right thing. Outside of Captain America, I mean, shit, half the fucking Avengers, it's just their job. That's just what they do for
They're
a
all
living.
secret agents.
So I mean, it's tough. So I mean, and I think the culmination of the Justice League, it should be a big deal. At the very least, it should be a first one, because in reality, like, and again, you're going against the history of DC and the history of these characters altogether. Yeah, it should be a big spectacle. And I'm not expecting that these characters know each other. I'm not expecting these characters are like knee deep into their relationships. And I'm not saying it's easy at all. I think it's very, very difficult. You have to, like I said, yeah, and especially since it's not just these characters. These are these characters' first times period on screen.
Yeah.
Which is which I think, in hindsight, what I feel that maybe Zack Snyder was trying to do was tell a Lord of the Rings type, 9-hour movie, which would give you essentially leeway to introduce these characters so it doesn't feel so rushed in terms of just establishing the tone, the rules, the world, which what you really have to do in DC.
I felt they did that in Batman v Superman.
No, what they really established in Batman v Superman was really Batman, Lex Luthor, and active Superman. Man of Steel was the origin of Clark Kent deciding to become Superman. Batman Superman is actually Superman being Superman. And people say he doesn't save people. He's saving people through that entire movie. Granted, it's a montage, but that's what he's doing the entire time.
Even in deleted scenes, when if you guys haven't taken a look at it, I would suggest you guys go take a look at the director's cut of Man of Steel. Batman v Superman. I thought it was a superior film. But even in that, when he had the Senate meeting and it blew up, they cut out the scene where he stayed. He didn't fly away. He stayed and helped the people who were dead. They brought the dead people out from the fucking.
Or just people that are injured.
Or people who are injured. He only left after the paramedics were like, "That's it, man. Like, there's no one else to save." And then he flies off.
Yeah. So like Superman is only Superman for parts of that movie, but he's sharing that movie with Batman, and that movie is really about establishing Batman and how he's sort of reacting to this world, or to the arrival of Superman.
Honestly, I felt that movie was more about the conflict between
it is
power,
about
power that is represented in Superman with the powerlessness of actual people.
Yeah, but like the person, the manifestation of that is Batman, and it's that conflict is Batman is the avatar for that. And and that's the introduction to Batman. We get to see the Batcave. We get to see his different relationship with Alfred. You get to see how he has sort of changed, and they do sort of a shortcut in some ways where they want you to have knowledge of who Batman is, but at the same time change some things about Batman, but also expect you to have knowledge about him in some other ways, which is fair and unfair. It's a difficult thing, specifically in the macro, situation of where Batman is culturally in pop culture. So I mean, but that movie is about power and the power and the ones that don't have it.
Powerless.
But
and the fact that you can actually have a movie. Well, I love the dynamics of it, just on the fact that it says, and again, it's a modern take, and honestly, that's why I see why Batman is put in the direction he is, because it's like, what if Superman came down and was fucking cracking cities open and doing stuff unilaterally on his own sense of goodness? I mean, they're good acts, but he's doing them on his own. What would the United States government feel about something like that?
Yeah, no.
What would the world feel about that?
It's. I mean, to me, it's a great meditation on that. I mean, that movie is my favorite. At the same time,
Batman v Superman.
Yeah, but at the same time, going into Justice League, all that conflict is dropped, And to me,
well, like I said, it overhauled around Superman.
But I mean,
no one knew about Cyborg.
But what I'm saying is that like that question of power and powerlessness is not brought up at all. It's we need to grab power is essentially what's this other one is.
All the people that have those conversations in this movie
are
the powerful.
But that's what I'm saying is that this movie is like, well, we just need to grab all the power we can, which kind of just says fuck it, and there's no more debate. It's an arms race essentially. There's no more of the question of should we build more nukes. It's fuck yeah, let's just build all the nukes we can. And I mean, it's not necessarily that they had to continue this, but like again, they don't really. The movie's just a setup for the standalone, which is a detriment to Justice League in itself. I mean, who knows if I'm right or wrong. The original plan was to have Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2. I think that would have done for a lot to help this individual movie. And I mean, to me, this movie was a commercial for the other ones, but to me, the best commercial that you can ever do is just make a good movie. If you make a good movie, people will be like, oh, that other movie that I saw was good. This character may have been in it, maybe not, but it's the same studio, the same group of people that made that other one. Well, let me go watch this. That's kind of how people make decisions on going to see a movie. And Marvel's been great at branding themselves as we're going to make this type of movie that you're going to enjoy, that you can bring your entire family to. And so, instead of sort of kind of having faith and in reality, like, plan, whether or not they really had a plan, whether or not they knew how to sell the plan, they shortchanged themselves, and I feel like they shot themselves in the foot. Because at this point, it feels like they don't really have an argument, and especially if you argument for their decision making. For like, if you really didn't feel that Zack Snyder's vision is what you wanted to make, then you should have let him go after Man of Steel. I liked it, but again, it's an opinion, and if you were spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this, I mean, if you're going to spend that much money on something you don't believe, what's wrong with you? A. B. What the fuck's wrong with you? Like, make a decision and be confident in your decision and go through, and at least you have that to stand on. You have that integrity to stand on.
Well, see, I mean, I don't look at it in terms of like that, because I feel that when you get data and you have your vision, you go, all right, I want Superman to be...
You can't make something if you're trying to make something and your goal is for it to be popular, it's just not going to work. You can't, just like when you're in school, you're like, oh, I want to be popular, let me do everything to be popular. You're just going to be that kid that nobody likes because you're just doing stuff for the wrong reasons. like you have to make something, love it, and put it out there, and hopefully people will really respond. It's something that's out of your control, and like that's what I'm saying. Where and what's really messed up, like I should show you some articles, like literally the decision making behind the movies to this point have all been about greed, stupidity, and money. And I'm not talking about the filmmakers. I'm talking about the executives at Warner Brothers. Like they fucked this up on such a level that it's like, Jesus, what? God damn it! I hope they get fired.
Wow.
I hope they get fired. Because like they don't like literally, and it's not the decision to hire Zack Snyder, but it's literally the indecision of making a real choice. Because all they did was kiss their sister the entire time, and like this movie is a culmination of kissing your sister.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, because a lot of times when it comes down to it, it's the vision of the director. But
like how much meddling has there been in the last 2 or 3 movies, from Suicide Squad to Batman, Superman to Justice League? It's not just because Zack Snyder had like a 2.5-3 hour cut of Justice League, and they're like, fuck that, no, we want things rewritten. and we want to reshoot and we want to change the tone. That's what we want to do. So it's not just and a director is hired by the studio. They're paying the bill, so it's not something that you can really argue about. He works for them. He has to do what they say, and a very good director is able to take the criticisms, either able to refute it and convince them, or take it and do something else with it, but still fulfill their vision. Those are true artists that can really do that, and I do mean artists.
Hold on.